That's a proper kip. Sleep on, snoring beauty. Here's Annalise with the crease. Those pillows did the job. Same comfy bed, same great night's sleep, same old Butterfingers. Bed hair don't care. These fuzzballs stay and eat for free. Glide into unlimited brekkie like a swan, or in this case, like Brian. And with checkout at midday, it's back to sleep for you, Bethany. Get better sleep for your money. Premier Inn.
You grew up on crime scenes, and you think this is one too. It's not.
The first life that a serial killer takes, it tends to be someone you know.
Careful, girl.
A Murder at the End of the World. Available now on ITVX.
My dad used to say to me, it's a 1% chance that anything horrible is going to go wrong. And then the 1% happened. My dad used to say to me, it's a 1% chance that anything horrible is going to go wrong. And then the 1% happened.
It was the glorious 80s, and nobody wanted to be responsible.
Parents were always away at some country house, so we'd be in the city just having fun.
We were having a wonderful time, but that doesn't mean that people were, okay.
A young woman's body was found in Central Park.
Attractive, popular, a week away from starting college, Jennifer Levin had so much going for her, and then her life ended.
For us, Jennifer's murder was almost like a 9/11 moment.
She was just a bubbly, outgoing, wonderful kid. Beautiful girl.
My daughter's dead. Will you get out of here?
What monster did this to somebody's daughter? And that person has to pay.
A suspect is under arrest, and police say he was not a stranger.
19-year-old Robert Chambers, described as a handsome preppy from an upper-class neighborhood.
I just can't see him doing anything like that. I think every girl in this school had a crush on him. He's like the perfect guy.
Before O.J. Simpson, the preppy killer was the trial of the century.
Lurid press accounts have suggested Chambers was the victim, forced into sex.
Jack Littman was a fantastic manipulator, and he knew how to use the press.
There seemed to be advances, some sexual activity by Jennifer Levin, which led to this tragedy.
It was all choreographed to denigrate my daughter. Unbelievable.
Robert was a symbol of white male beauty, power, and money. That's how he was portrayed.
We discovered that this guy was no altar boy. I was totally shocked.
Oops, I think I killed him.
This was a dissolute, sociopathic drug addict who cared about no one but himself.
This narrative has become something completely different than what it actually was. This story has never been told.
You're going to answer my questions and tell me the truth about what happened that night. Yes.
I lived on 90th and 3rd in a walk-up 3rd floor. I was an equity trader on Wall Street. I would ride my bike at hours when the only people up are garbage trucks and newspaper delivery trucks. Probably in hindsight was completely unwise. But maybe because I was a female trader, I felt invincible. That particular morning, I rode over to the park, and when I approached Panther Hill, there was a car with blacked out windows coming the wrong way. So that's a little odd in and of itself. And then as I continue up the hill, I looked over my left shoulder, and there was a young woman under a tree. I was close enough to know that it wasn't right. Her body wasn't lined up correctly. Like, one arm was up, one leg was back. The shirt was pushed up. First thing I thought of was trying to call the police. And the first phone that I could reach was Madison and 90th, and I called 911 from there.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
When I got back, I felt that someone should be with her. I felt a sisterhood of sorts. It was almost like this could be me. I don't know how she got there, but this could be me. After that day, I wasn't as, I don't know if it's brave or careless, but that morning changed everything for me.
We received a call about 6 in the morning. Dispatcher said we have a young female DOA in the park. Investigate DOA. I was the commanding officer of Manhattan Detectives Night Watch. Anything that was homicide, rape, shootings, likely to die, we would cover it. I said, get everyone together and saddle up, let's get out there. We went up there, lights and sirens. We came in, and a little bit past the Metropolitan Museum, there was a body. I remember the first thing the sergeant said to me. He said, Wally, I understand that a car came to the scene, a brown car, whether it was a Chevy, a Pontiac, or a Buick. It was here and dumped the body. And there were tire tracks, and he showed me the tire tracks. And I called citywide, the dispatcher, and I said, forthwith. I use forthwith a lot. It's a like fluent cop terminology. I said, shut down every entrance and exit, bridge and tunnel that enters New York City. They closed off everything.
I remember coming into work at Channel 5, and we heard a lot of chit-chat on the police radios about a young white woman being found murdered in Central Park.
We don't know much more at that moment, just a body has been found, a young woman has died.
It was tough times in New York City.
In Manhattan, Rosanna Scotto, Fox News Channel 5.
The crime rate was probably 3 times as high as it is now. Crack was a real big problem in this city. A lot of urban violence.
Reporting live from Manhattan Criminal Court, McGee Hickey, News 4. Back to you, Sue.
There'd be 4 or 5 murders a day in other parts of the city. And we would always say, oh, that's a drug murder. That one you don't pay attention to. But if something happens in Central Park to a white person in the 1980s, everyone pays attention to it.
The media is very competitive in New York City, so you get a lot of media personnel there. So let's expand the crime scene as far as we can. Let's get tape and put it around as much as we can to keep the public out. You don't want to contaminate the crime scene in any way. I then got back to my dispatcher and asked him to get Manhattan North Homicide on the phone, get him in forthwith.
I was assigned to the Manhattan North Homicide Squad. We covered everything from 59th Street to the northern tip of Manhattan Island, from river to river. And all the years I was on the job as a cop, most of our homicides were either in small apartments, on a stairwell, in between two parked cars. So what's the crime scene? 12 by 12, maybe? We got to this crime scene, and it was yellow tape almost as far as the eye could see. We nicknamed it the Ponderosa. We had the tarp removed, and I took a closer look. It was a young woman, around 18 to 20 years of age. Her skirt was hiked up. Her bra and her blouse were also above her breasts. It looked like this was a victim of a violent sexual assault. She had these tan lines that showed me there were missing bracelets. There were marks from rings. They were all gone. And you could see perhaps she was wearing some kind of earrings. And they were gone. So you say, maybe this was a robbery. There were scratches, heavy bruising all over the rest of her body. And on her neck, there were these reddish-brown marks, which really stood out. In the first moments, there's a million things going through your head. You know, was there a dispute? Is this a boyfriend, girlfriend? Or is this a stranger? Was this an attempted rape? Did somebody pull her off Fifth Avenue? What happened to this poor kid?
At that time, I was running the country's first sex crimes prosecution unit. So it looked like this was going to fall under my watch. But it was an unlikely place to think of a homicide, because nobody would have walked into Central Park late at night of her own volition. The assumption we all had was that this was a young woman who had been killed and then dumped in Central Park by a stranger, and that the likelihood of finding her killer was incredibly remote. The killer might never be found.
Obviously, it was so important to find out who she is. She had a denim jacket next to her, and she was tentatively identified as Jennifer Levin. How do you beat a woman and just leave her in Central Park, you know? I mean, who does that? That person has to be caught, and that person has to pay. So, go out and find this guy.
We walk together.
Walking down the street. I just can't get enough.
I just want to tell you what we have here. I'm not going to answer a lot of questions.
You do have a name?
We have a tentative name at this particular point. Our first efforts will be to identify her and possibly find out what her background is, etc., and where she may have been prior to arriving here. Go. Thanks, Thomas.
In NYPD, we don't make notifications of death by phone. We make face-to-face notifications. My duty captain said, go with Mike. down to the family and make the notification. So I went with Mike down to Stephen Levin's house. And it was a tragic, it was, you know, you go to a house, you see pictures of Jennifer. Her father was there. You know, to lose a child as a parent, someone that's so important to you, someone you love, that's your blood. It was very hard.
While we were in the apartment, the buzzer was constantly ringing. Somewhere along the line, the address must have leaked out. The press was all over.
Sir, have you spoken with the family yet? No, I haven't. We'd like to get out of your way, but we need a photograph.
It's me, Ira. I can't get up. Is anybody else lodging with you, or you're with a bunch of reporters?
Sir, have you spoken to the... A couple of hours after the family was informed about what happened to Jennifer, her uncle came down to speak to reporters about the tragedy and about the woman who was killed.
I am very, very hesitantly coming to the conclusion that New York City is no longer a fit place in which to live. I mean, it's an armed camp. I really think it's a social experiment that's failed. A lot of people feel that way, people that I know, and I don't know. This is just such an unreal experience.
Sir, what do you make of this? Did she have friends that the family was concerned about?
I have no idea. No, I don't think she was. She was very, very social. Always out, but a good kid. My brother is a wonderful father. She was just a bubbly, outgoing, wonderful, social kid. Beautiful girl.
Thank you very much.
There was a lot of people in the house, I assume friends and relatives. And her maternal grandfather said, "Oh my God, did anybody call Ellen?" "Who's Ellen?" He goes, "Her mother."
Does Mrs. Levin live here as well?
No, she doesn't. I don't even know if she knows about it yet, to tell you the truth.
I was at work. I got a telephone call, and it was my dad, and he was crying. I never heard my dad cry. And he couldn't talk. And I said, "What's wrong? What happened to Mom?" It's the first thing he asked. And he said, it's not Mom, Ellen, it's Jen. He said, "We lost her." And I started yelling, "What do you mean you lost her? What do you mean she's lost?" I couldn't conceive of what he was telling me. And he said, "You have to come downtown. We're all at Steve's loft." I got in a car down to Soho. I still didn't know what was happening.
The murder of a young woman whose body was found in Central
And I hear on the radio, the body that was found behind the Metropolitan Museum was that of Jennifer Levin. And then I really lost it. The only thing that fit in my mind at that moment was she was in an accident, which it didn't help, but it was at least rational. We got to the loft in Soho. And the photographers came running, screaming, "There's the mother."
Go away. My daughter's dead. Will you get out of here?
I still didn't know what happened. They brought me up to the loft, and there was my entire family crying. And my mother said, "They strangled my baby." And that's when I found out how she died. So I'm gonna take a break. Yeah.
Gentlemen, we realize this is a difficult time. I assume you're here to see the Levin family. Are you police officers? Oh, okay.
My lieutenant said, "We have to find out more about what happened in the park. Go to the morgue. Try to document the injuries. Now she's in a clinical setting. Now you can really take a look." So I went to the morgue to see what else I could learn. I looked at the body. I was just totally shocked. like, what happened to this poor kid?
So, in terms of salary, you were thinking...
I was hoping you would... On your first day as a chef, they tell you the golden rule. Butter makes everything taste better. But this M&S artisan butter maker
I had asked the medical examiner to join me in the morgue. Jennifer was lying out on a gurney, and we examined her from head to toe. A little bit of time had passed, so some of these injuries really come into focus. The bruising was all over the face. The marks on the neck were darker and deeper. They screamed at you, like, look at this. It looked like she was strangled. Her teeth were loose. Her left eye was bulging out of the socket. I asked, what do you think caused that damage to the face? The medical examiner said, it looks like a blow from an instrument, or it could be a blow from a fist. I noticed there were like little half-moon marks right over here. And what that was determined to be was from her fingernails. Whatever was strangling her, she was trying to pull it down. You could really see that this kid put up the fight of her life. I've always had this thing in me, like, I owe it to the victim and to the victim's family to find out what monster did this to somebody's daughter, somebody's sister.
Yeah, that's in her room.
Oh, just a cute little baby.
From the moment she could stand, she would listen to us playing the Beatles, her father and I. And she'd start jumping up and down in the crib, dancing. This tiny little baby banging the crib against the wall in tune with the music. She had so much life and she was so happy. So we just let her party with us. She did have that kind of personality. She was born with a smile on her face.
When she was a baby, I did feel protective towards her. And for a while there, she allowed me to be. She was fun, she was goofy, a really full of life spirit. And so beautiful.
She was a character. I mean, Jennifer really loved life. We were living on Long Island, and after my divorce, we started up a whole new life, really.
Our family was really in transition. My dad moved to the city. He had this really cool loft, and Jen just thought it'd be a fun idea to live in the city.
Jennifer moved in with her father in Soho because she was starting school in the city. Me and Danielle was still on Long Island, but I had some friends in an area called Tribeca, which very few people even knew existed. And I moved in within the year. Jen was in walking distance from me. And that's when she became a real city girl.
Jen was totally in her element in New York City. She was always fun and excited about life. but she met the people here that, just had the same energy as her. She was confident and,
Confident and independent.
And independent, yeah. So I don't think there was much worry.
Honestly, I didn't see it coming. It was shocking.
Every single case, you have to go back over the last steps of your victim. What brought this beautiful girl to Central Park? Who was she with? Where was she in the hours preceding her death? And from that story, you could usually solve the case. You begin by questioning people who knew her. Jennifer's father and stepmother said she had spent the night on the Upper East Side with her friend, Alex Legata. Two detectives go up and they interview Alex Legata, and that's how the whole story came into place.
LV have always made it simple for me.
Fellow Swan boat!
Two detectives went up to the Upper East Side to talk to Jennifer's friend, Alex Legata, who basically sets the scene. They learned she was at a bar called Dorian's.
By questioning the victim's friends to track her movements Monday night, detectives learned she had been to Dorian's restaurant, a so-called preppy hangout where the fatal sequence began.
Dorian's Red Hand was a kind of a legendary bar on the Upper East Side. It also had a reputation. It was a place where a lot of well-heeled, privileged kids would go.
It was like a preppy hangout. White, Upper East Side, wealthy families, kids who lived a life of privilege.
We loved Dorian's because it was this place where we could all gather. Jennifer and I used to go there all the time.
This is a good photo. This is Peter Davis, my best friend. Jennifer, my other best friend. And there I am.
I met Jennifer in 1984. We worked together in Soho at French Connection. She was this kind of starry-eyed, young teenager coming from Long Island. To live in Soho in the early 80s was a big deal. The streets were dark. There was people living in raw lofts with no one around, and it was not gussied up the way it is now. Her father ran this real estate company, and Jennifer was the downtown kid. And there was a kind of fast friendship.
I met Jennifer through Jessica because it was like her people are my people and vice versa. So I met Jennifer, and immediately I thought she was cool. Everything that was different about Jennifer was what attracted me to her. The fact that she was Jewish and not a WASP from the Upper East Side, that she lived in Soho. We lived uptown, and we were already ingrained and enmeshed in this world. We grew up in this bubble of rich Upper East Side preppy kids. And she wasn't in that bubble. But at the same time, I think Jennifer kind of thought our lives were super cool.
We were a community of privileged people who live in big apartments in fancy neighborhoods. We would have weekend parties at different people's house.
I was part of that preppy Upper East Side private school community. Lots of friends, parents were at their country house or out in the Hamptons. So you could always find someone who had their apartment to themselves. We had an enormous amount of freedom
there was an opening for a lot of nefarious activity. We'd have booze and pot smoking, and, you know, kids were left on their own.
It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?
And then 9th and 10th grade, it was clubs.
It was the time of Studio 54, and we would get these passes somehow or another, and we would go.
There was a promoter, this kind of like white waspy type with round specs. He got all the private school kids to come in. And there was this bouncer there. He loved me, and I just roll up, and he'd be like, you. And massive nightclub. There's people doing drugs in the back alleys, partying like crazy and taking their clothes off. And I was, you know, just there.
As a teenager in New York, I became very savvy as to who worked the door, who worked inside, who would drink tickets. I was on it.
It was the glorious 80s, and we were loving it. We were having a wonderful time. But that doesn't mean that people were, you know, okay.
New York is a phenomenon of like what I call the gilded latchkey children. Kids who've been sort of doing their own thing. Their parents work very hard, professional, upper middle income people. And for New York, these clubs or restaurants like Dorian's is what the shopping malls are to other kids. It's a place where the parents feel, well, if they're all together somewhere, maybe they're safe.
Dorian's was really one up from a dive bar, and they would just let you in. There was no bouncer. You had the worst fake IDs, and they didn't even really ask for that. And it just became this meeting place for underage New York City private school kids. It was like a clubhouse, a private preppy club that you had to know about it, like an insider secret. But it was always, to me, a place to start the night and never to finish. I always wanted to go downtown with like people I thought were cool. And I remember Jennifer often wanted to stay at Dorian's because downtown was where she lived. Dorian's probably seemed so much more fun and different and exotic. I think she thought that was where the fun action was.
You capture this in this little photo booth box with your best friend. It's a completely innocent act, and you have no clue, right, what is to come to pass. Fragments of a captured life that was then, less than a year later, taken, ripped. It's...
The police knew Jennifer had been at Dorian's with her friend Alex Legata. Alex named other friends who had been at Dorian's with Jennifer, so police began to question those friends.
You know, it's the old XYZ. You talk to X, and X goes, I left. And she was with Y and Z. And Y goes, well, I left 5 minutes after X. And she was with Z.
The group kept getting smaller and smaller, and a name kept coming up.
Robert Chambers. Oh, who's Robert Chambers? He's one of the crowd. He's one of us. All right, well, we'd like to talk to him.
Everybody at that point in time was looking for a stranger who might have abducted her, pulled her into a car, done these terrible things to her, then dumped her in Central Park. And when the detectives went to Mrs. Chambers' home on East 90th Street asking for Robert, they went there because he was Jennifer's friend and was probably one of the last people to see her alive. Mrs. Chambers answered the door, gracious woman. She said yes, Robert was asleep in his bedroom. They asked if they could speak to him. He presented himself. And in that moment, Robert Chambers went from being a friend of Jennifer Levin's to a person of interest. When the detectives went to Robert Chambers' home, They were assuming he was Jennifer's friend and perhaps was going to help them. He came out of the bedroom and he had deep, fresh scratches on his face.
It's obvious to the two detectives that he has fresh scratch marks on his face, but they would never show their hand. And Chambers says, "What do you need from me? Should come to the precinct?" "Sure, I'll come to the precinct." And he went and he got his Filofax, and he had all his phone numbers in there and all of the different people that he could call. And he came in voluntarily to help the cops. I went in, I introduced myself. He certainly looked the part of a super rich kid from the affluent Upper East Side. Tremendous presence. So we shook hands, and his right hand clearly had been damaged. It was the 5th metacarpal. So it's right in here, classic boxer's injury. This was an impact fracture, but you never want to act surprised. You have to develop some kind of rapport with the person. And I said, "Where'd you go to school?" And he said, "I graduated from New York Prep." "I know that school." "Oh yeah, really?" I said, "Yeah, I'm from the neighborhood, you know." He was very well spoken, and he was very relaxed. And finally I said, "Tell me about your face." "Oh, well, you know, I was throwing my cat up in the air and, you know, came down and scratched me." And he goes, "You think this is bad?" And he lifted up his shirt, and there were these scratch marks from his upper left shoulder right down to his stomach. And they were also fresh. And at that point, I went right about questioning him. You know, how long do you know Jennifer? And when's the last time you saw her? Right in front of Dorian's. And his story seemed to be pretty on point. I walked outside with her. I said goodnight. She went her way. I went my way. But he had this cockiness about him. Like, "I'm not worried. You civil servants are not gonna, you know, break me. I'm Robert Chambers." And we continued to talk, like a couple of hours. And now the tone was changing. The mood in the room was a little more tense. And went, "Could you tell me one more time what happened?" And he went, "Pay attention." "You have all my attention, I swear." He says, "We went outside and we walked up 86th Street. Bam. For the past 2 hours, he's been telling me that he said goodbye to her in front of Dorian's. And now you're gonna tell me you walked up 86th Street in the direction of Central Park? Come on, it's time to tell me the truth. So what happened?" And you could see his eyes filling up with tears. And he mumbled, "What's Mother going to say?" I thought, this guy could go, you know? He's gonna tell us the whole story.
Mike called me at home. I had just finished dinner with my wife. There was a girl murdered in Central Park, Jennifer Levin. We have a guy up here in the Central Park precinct who looks good. Can you get involved? When I got there, Robert Chambers hadn't asked for a lawyer up to this point. He was talking freely. I felt that if he's willing to give a videotaped statement, it was going to be done before he changed his mind. Everybody has their own style, but there are certain basic 101 stuff if you're going to take a statement.
My name is Steven Serrano. I'm Assistant District Attorney in New York County.
I read him his rights. I'm from the District Attorney's Office. A woman, Jennifer Levin, was found dead in Central Park. It appears she's been strangled. Is there anything you want to say?
Okay, just tell me in your own words as best you can how she came to be dead.
And you let him go as long as he wants.
Just tell me in your own words as best you can how she came to be dead.
I got to Dorian's late. I got there about 11:30, and I was hanging out with my friends. We were just talking, and I hadn't seen Jennifer yet. And then I guess about sometime around midnight, she came over and started talking to me. Started talking about herself and her trip to California and her tan. And I really wasn't all that interested. And yeah, and I kept making faces about it and stuff. Some of her friends had already left, and she said she wanted to go outside and talk to me about something important. So I went outside and I met Jennifer, and then we started walking up towards 86th Street.
How were you feeling at this point?
I was fine. I wasn't feeling drunk or high or anything like that.
What did you talk about?
We just talked about whatever, what we're doing, where we're going to go to school, what we want to do in the future, just talking. We walked up towards Central Park, and she said, let's go in the park, and I was saying, no, I want to go home, and she was like, no, let's just go sit in the park and talk. So I said, fine. We took this path that goes right along the museum into the park. And I was trying to explain to Jennifer that I wasn't interested and I wanted to go home.
Have you made any moves towards her?
No, I wasn't interested at all. I didn't even want to be with her.
Well, she obviously was interested in some respects.
Well, yeah, she was. And then she said, let's go over here across the road and sit under this tree. So while we were there, I was saying I'm interested in other people and that you're going away and I don't want to be bothered. And she freaked out. She got up and knelt in front of me and she just scratched my face. And I had these marks. I didn't even notice until this morning. And I got all upset and I stood up and I was saying, I'm gonna go, this is crazy.
She's still remaining sitting?
She was kneeling. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry, sit down. And I said, I'll sit and talk with you, but then I'm gonna go. Because I was really pissed off at this time. She didn't really say anything, didn't call me any names. She just had this look on her that she was, I don't know, she was insane. I don't know what was wrong with her. And she said, well, let me go to the bathroom. And I said, all right, I'll wait here. She came back and she came up behind me and she started to give me a massage and saying how cute I looked and that I would look cuter if I were tied up. I thought, she was just horsing around.
Why did you think she was horsing around?
Because it just didn't seem like Jennifer, at least the way I knew her. And I started to say that this is crazy, whatever. And then she scooped my hands with both her arms and held them together. I took her underwear and she wrapped her underwear around my wrists so they were locked and they were behind my back because I was leaning on my hands. And she just pushed me back like this and then got on top of my chest and she was facing my feet. And she began taking off my pants. And she started to play with me. She started jerking me off. And she was doing it really hard and it really hurt me. And I started to say, stop it, it hurts. And she just kind of laughed in weird ways, more like a cackle or something. She was just having her way. And then she dug her nails into my chest and I have scratches right here of where she scratched and on here. So I was screaming in pain. I couldn't take it anymore. And I managed to get my left hand free. So I kind of sat up a little and just grabbed at her. I just grabbed her and yanked her as hard as I could and she just flipped over me and landed right next to the tree. And then she didn't move.
You have a dead body. You have a guy who says, I did it. All in all, I thought, this is the simplest case in the world. But I had no idea.
No sign of him yet, Money Super 7? I had such high hopes for you tonight.
High hopes? That's him!
Go, go, go. Let's give him what he deserves.
Your rewards from Money Supermarket. You're gonna love them. Welcome to the Super Save Club.
She's your next. Break a leg.
See how much you could save today with Money Supermarket.
Keep your friends close, but your maids closer.
Devious Maids. Available now on ITVX.